And as students head back to class in jurisdictions across Canada, there is some renewed interest in course curriculum. Some advocates are emphasizing the importance of teaching diverse topics. They say educators could help create conversations around racism and promote tolerance. So what exactly can educators do to curate those conversations, and what kinds of challenges stand in their way? I'm joined now by a panel of educators to help answer some of those questions. Mary Tran, a teacher in Toronto and contributing writer of a new toolkit for teachers on addressing anti-Asian racism. Lorraine Harris, an ESL teacher in Waterloo, Ontario, and the co-creator of A Place in This World, a virtual-based Black curriculum that focuses on African kings and queens. And Bobbie-Jo Leclair is an Indigenous educational consultant in Winnipeg and a facilitator of a video game that celebrates and explores Manitoba's Anishinaabe community. Thanks to all three of you for being with us here on Canada Tonight.
Thank you for having us.
So all of you have taken it upon yourselves in some way to help create some of the content that you wanted to see in the classrooms. And Mary, I'll start with you. Tell me about the toolkit that you created and why you thought it was necessary.
Sure. So the toolkit, or the resource, was actually a document that was written by myself and other co-authors as well, in collaboration with the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario and the Toronto District School Board. So at the time of COVID heightening, we thought it was a really important time to address anti-Asian racism and the rise of anti-racist acts and attacks that we were seeing within the Asian community, and a tool just sort of really help us address students within the classroom and how we are able to recognize and work towards building, more tolerance within the classroom, and also how we can address it when we see it and name it. So that was sort of the driving force, was really to, the time, it was the right time for this.
Right. Lorraine, you helped co-create a Black curriculum for Ontario Elementary School, and it focuses on African kings and queens. There are so many different things you could have touched on when you talk about, a Black-focused curriculum. Why this in particular?
My place in this world is really critical and important, and I created it because the mission really is to provide rich and relevant resources for Black students that, when implemented and taught in the classroom, they can have a better place in this world. That is something that has been missing. It's about identity and creating a sense of belonging for Black students. And so I collaborated with the University of Guelph and some qualified historians and the Guelph Black Heritage Society to bring this curriculum to the forefront.
Bobbie-Jo, I want to hear a little bit more about this program that you're facilitating, because it's also unique in that it's a video game, I understand, but it touches on Anishinaabe culture and with the help of and input of Indigenous leaders. Can you talk about that gap that you see in the curriculum when it comes to students knowing about Indigenous culture and history, particularly in Canada, where it really is a big part of our history?
Yeah, for education in Canada, a lot of the history of Indigenous people has been left out largely from the curriculum. I think that in the high school, there's like a page where that talks about history and the impact. And really considering that education has largely been responsible in Canada for multi-generational trauma and forced assimilation of Indigenous peoples, it's really important that we look at authentic ways to implement Indigenous perspectives into the curriculum from Indigenous people. So this game, which is really unique because it really touches on a younger curriculum, it's a grade 3 to grade 5 game, although it does encourage teachers in older grades to support it. It's from the voice of Indigenous people, and in particular the Anishinaabe Nation in Manitoba. So when we were presented with this opportunity, we decided to focus on one of the 7 nations that live in Manitoba, and we chose Anishinaabe. And we presented it to our Council of Grandmothers and Grandfathers, which are a council of Indigenous elders from 6 different nations in Manitoba. And they gave us the go-ahead, and one of those grandmothers, Chickadee Richard, she's an Anishinaabe from Sandy Bay First Nations, she led us and guided us through the entire project. So everything that you see through this game is authentic to their culture, their language, what they wanted us to teach and present to students. So it's really unique in the way that it's coming from the voice of the people rather than the education system and us deciding what should be in there. We did work with educators to ensure that it touched on different areas of the curriculum, but really it's focused on learning about what was here before, but what is also here. Many Indigenous people still live this type of life, but also it focuses on the beauty of the life that was here and the strength of the people and the culture and the language, all things that were intact, and it demonstrates a thriving society that existed here prior to colonization. So students at an early age will get to learn these things, so then when they do get into the curriculum where they learn about residential schools, 60 Scoop, and all that trauma, they'll have an understanding of why that had such an incredible impact on the Indigenous people of Canada, or of Turtle Island, really.
Yes. So what's interesting to me with many of these projects is that they are teacher-led, that they are, you guys are folks who saw a gap and kind of took that proactive step to say, we need to do something, we want to see something different, and we're going to take the steps to do it. What kind of support or pushback maybe do you have from school boards when you present these ideas, or when you bring up the topic of saying we want to see a different curriculum, we want to make changes? Is that a difficult thing to try and actually get into action, Mary?
I think it really has to start at everyone has to put in the work. At the educator level, educators have to want to do the work. We can believe in something and we can agree with something, but unless we actually put it into action, nothing will change. So we really have to push for, curriculum to represent all the missing voices, all the racialized voices that are missing, whose stories are heard, whose stories are valued. Those that are silenced really gives us a true reflection of who is in power. So when we have racialized communities that are able to reclaim the narrative, they're able to fill in the gaps of how events have really shaped and continue to shape the formation of Canada and their learning experiences within Canada.
Right.
So really, there's multiple levels and layers to changing.
Lorraine, do you think there are enough tools and resources available for teachers, even if they wanted to bring in a different curriculum, let's say on Black history or other diverse topics? Are there enough resources available for teachers?
Well, in terms of curriculum, the irony is there has not been really a Black curriculum that is taught throughout the year. With this particular curriculum, it's for ease of use, so therefore we have the necessary supports, and it's very easy for teachers to navigate without any experience. However, it is always important for further PD and for collaboration that we provide more resources and opportunities to support this kind of ongoing curriculum. So definitely we would need, and we do need, more resources from the school board level and also from the government level, especially financial support, so that we can have more of this curriculum coming out, and school boards don't have to independently be trying to finance these types of curriculums.
Bobbie-Jo, we might hear from teachers who say, I want to teach about Indigenous history and culture, but I don't feel equipped, I don't feel educated enough to do it properly. We heard this story of a teacher who was criticized for doing a project in school on having the kids make a medicine bag, and she was using an LCBO bag as the example. And so, here is someone who maybe tried to do the right thing and it came from a good place, but the end result was harmful. So how do you respond to that when teachers say, I want to bring it in, but I'm afraid of doing the wrong thing, or I just don't know enough?
Oh, I think that's a two-part question. One is teaching the history, and the other one is teaching the culture and the teachings. As educators, we have a responsibility, especially in Canada, to teach the history. there really is no excuse anymore not to do it. There are many resources available in both official language to be able to support teachers in teaching that history. What we would like teachers to do, rather than taking on projects of teaching our teachings or our culture, is to connect with the community. Every community in Canada has an Indigenous nation near them that they can reach out to get support in those things. And that's where it should come from. It is our responsibility as Indigenous people to teach our teachings back to our children, and it's a responsibility of teachers to teach the curriculum and to teach the history. So I think that when teachers ask me that or tell me that, I say, well, you know, I'm not asking you to teach my culture and my teachings, but I am asking you to teach, you know, our children the history of this country, and that's something that you can do easily. You know, there are so many resources out there available today that it's not really an excuse anymore, and to leave the teachings and the cultures to the people that it should come from, and those are, you know, the Indigenous nations that are around your community.
Right. Lorraine, what's the reaction been from parents, from teachers, and from kids to this curriculum that you brought in?
It's been a period of excitement because for the first time historically, they will have a curriculum that is taught year-round. They will have a curriculum that's empowering. This curriculum speaks about African kings and queens, and the curriculum is exciting because it sends the message that, you know what, our story did not begin with slavery. There was greatness in our culture and in our heritage, and the kings and queens of Africa had wealth and power and a great impact on our current day civilization. And our students, all students need to hear this. So the reaction has been excitement from the parents, because this is something that they have long wanted to see, is to have their culture, their heritage be taught in the classroom. For many years, we have experienced, you know, the excitement of our children learning about European civilization. So it's our turn and an opportunity now to share the greatness of our culture and for our kids to find a better place in this world. It's about leveling the playing field. It's about equity and inclusion. So the excitement is permeating through the school boards, through my students, through the families, and they can't wait to begin to share this with in the classroom.
All right, we are going to leave it there. Lorraine Harris, a teacher in Waterloo, Mary Tran in Toronto, and Bobbie-Jo Leclair, an Indigenous educational consultant in Winnipeg. Congratulations to all of you for the work that you're doing to really change. And it is a huge undertaking, and we hope we see more of it across the country. Thanks to all of you for being with us on Canada Tonight.
Thank you.